Hi, I'm Doug Sherwin, legal reporter here at the Daily Transcript, and I'm here with Jeremy Evans, runs his own practice, practicing California sports law, and one of our top attorneys. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, it seems like the sports page used to be separate from the legal times, and now we're seeing sports stories there. I know the Donald Sterling thing and his legal battles to try and hold on to the Clippers is one thing. I mean, we're just seeing more and more of that, right?
True. Branch Rickey, he was the general manager for the Brooklyn Dodgers way back in the 40s and 50s, and he had this great quote that baseball at one point would be run by lawyers. And I think that that's kind of what we're seeing now. We're seeing the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball all run by lawyers. And you're seeing athletes in those sports getting into trouble with the law. You're seeing owners in those sports getting in trouble with the law. And that's essentially, you have this kind of intermixing between law and sports. And you have lawyers specializing in that. But I think it's still kind of a new area in some sense, because you're not really, because it's new.
Right. Are there particular challenges? I mean, in one case, we've seen the Ray Rice case.
Mm-hmm.
You had video footage of that. There's domestic abuse, and got a 2-game suspension. There was a kind of outcry that wasn't strict enough.
Right.
What particular challenges do sports figures who really become celebrities do they face in these type of cases?
Well, it's very interesting because you have to kind of look at who the players are in terms of not the players, just the athletes, but you have the agent on one side who's trying to, make the athlete look good. You have the union lawyers trying to protect the athlete, but also protect the union. Then you have the owner's lawyers trying to kind of protect the team and protect the league, that type of thing. So some of the challenges are, one, it's trying to create a good enough precedent or a precedent where it's like if something happens that, like I think with Ray Rice, it was a 2-day, suspension. Whereas I think a gentleman who was suspended for 4 days or 4 games for drugs. So it's like, and you see the video versus the drug use. And so I think on one hand, it's the owners and the NFL trying to create a good precedent for these guys to say, if you mess up, this should be the standard. And then on the player side, the issue is, how can you continue to, obviously you're still going to get paid. I mean, that's not going to change. You have a contract in place. Unless you're Aaron Hernandez, something's happened that way. But so I think the challenges are, on one hand, still looking good in the public, or at least doing the right things in the public eye. If you can't do things right in your private life, and trying to kind of manage through whatever sort of disciplinary hearings that you might have or you would have to deal with.
Right.
So, and then I think with Ray Rice, I think his contract provided that he was getting paid about $500-something thousand per game. So ultimately, he doesn't get paid. Well, anybody who represents athletes knows that generally they'll spend a lot of money when they get paid. So now it becomes a point of how do you manage that those finances when he's not getting paid the $500,000? He's not getting that big check every week or every 2 weeks.
Still has to make those house payments.
Absolutely, and the Lamborghini payments and the Ferrari payments. So.
And then we're also seeing that it seems like judges are less willing to be lenient against sports stars. We saw it with the Giants receiver several years back, where he got jail time for carrying a concealed gun. Right. Whereas before, the perception was, oh, well, they're a star, they're going to get off.
Right. And that's a really good point too, because ultimately it's a situation where you see not only judges going after athletes to where they're not they're still held in high esteem, I think, by the public, but I think judges and maybe some other folks are starting to look at that and say, hey, maybe we should start disciplining, some of these athletes. You're also seeing judges going after leagues. There was a recent decision that came down that was limiting TV rights. So all of these Major League Baseball, the NFL, had exemptions in terms of from the antitrust clause. They were saying, well, we can black out certain games. This happens in San Diego all the time with the Chargers. Yeah. Games are blacked out, and that's because the networks say we're not going to make enough money there. Well, now you have a judge coming down and saying, you know what, you can't do that anymore. So I think you're also seeing judges going after players and leagues and kind of chipping away at that antitrust kind of exemption.
Yeah, it's interesting. We didn't have time to touch on it, but then there was a decision with the NCAA and whether they could pay pay athletes.
Right, and that decision came down. Now there's going to be, I think it's what is it, $25,000 per year per athlete, $25,000 cap, which is still not, terrible amount of money. But for a college athlete, $25,000 could be. I would have liked $25,000 in college, right?
Yeah, Jeremy. Hey, thanks for joining me today.
Anytime, pleasure. Thank you.